Okay, sorry about that. Brief interlude. Live TV, it shows business. But I can now see that the data is much better. No scenes being dropped, and we are back and running beautifully. So, anyhow, sorry about that. So we got the big man, Mark Stiles, on the show this evening, and I just wanted to obviously it's been well advertised, well documented that I'm hosting and running an event later on in September. Last day in September, first 2 days in October up at MB Raceway. There's still opportunities for guys and girls to enter and race. I wanted to build up to the event, build up to the winter season with a bit of chat about 12 scale. Gonna have Mark Stiles on this week. I've got the folks from Force Raceway joining me next weekend, so it'll be good to get them on and hear about their exploits within the racing world, of the indoor world. Do all things sort of 12 scale, bit of Tamiya trucks and various different classes, so they're doing great things there. As I say, I've been up to a bit of buggy racing over the summer period. I've been getting back into a bit of 12 scale. I did 12 scale a little while ago. I was sick as a pig, actually. I wasn't COVID. I was in bed for like a week or 10 days or something, and managed to get over that, which was good. But as I say, I wasn't in the best of health. Went 12 scale racing at Chesterfield. I didn't even stay around for my finals. I was feeling that rough, so I drove back home. So 12 scale has been a long while since I've done that, so I'm really looking forward to that. As ever, as you all know, I am always mega keen to improve, and so hopefully this winter will be a good winter of moving forwards, looking to go faster. Feel like I've learned a bit more with the buggy, which hopefully can be applied to the 12 scale. Using a different chassis this winter. Talk about that a little bit later on. There's loads of changes, loads of things going on. So much to talk about. And so, obviously, we will be looking to take all of your questions this evening. So feel free to bring them on as and when you feel like it. Be great to have as many questions as possible. So as you probably heard in the background, I was calling Mr. Stiles. And so why not? Let's just get him on. Now he's got some serious headphones on, let me tell you. He's got some serious headphones on. So let's bring him on. There he is. Welcome to the show, Mark. How are you, pal?
Hi, yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate.
Before we get going,
Don't diss my headphones. They're top quality work issue ones.
that hang on one second. They're top quality work issue ones.
Yeah. Made by Bose of all people.
Nice.
That's right.
Now, so of course, 12 scale season coming upon us. Now, what we've got to bear in mind here, I'm having to control the volume. So I'm having to control your volume and my volume at the same time. So if we talk over each other, people can't really hear us that great. So we'll have to sort of take it in turns as best we can. I'm sure there's a better way of doing that, but it's working. It's show business, Mark. It's show business. So give us some insight as to what you've been up to, because you've been sort of tear-assing around all over the country doing a bit of 12 scale practice in the summer, which is something new for you, right?
Yeah, I have. As a lot of people who listen to this might know, I've made a bit of a change earlier this year, chassis wise. So I'm running, or I'm going to be running the new automatics A12 car. So that's an exciting new thing that I've got involved with. But obviously, with anything new, you need to get your eye in and get used to it and understand it a bit. So I've made more of a concerted effort this summer to try and do some racing, mostly at Tamworth, just club level stuff. But to be honest, the club meetings up at Tamworth on a Saturday night are really, really competitive. We've had some so that's been good to keep my eye in and my thumbs sharp. So hopefully I can hit the ground running a little bit more this autumn and into the winter season, because I've over the years I've probably been guilty of letting things slip a bit over the summer, and then you kind of pick up a transmitter in a car that you've only driven once or twice over the summer when it gets to nationals time, and you find you're very rusty, and there's these guys that are pretty fast and talented that can just put a car down and drive it around for 8 minutes and not touch anything. And you know, the reason they're able to do that is because they keep their eye in over the summer, whether it's racing 12 scale or buggies or touring cars or whatever they do. So hopefully a summer of club racing. I've done 2 of the 3 shootouts at Chesterfield so far. We've got the 4th and final one coming up in a couple of weeks. So hopefully that will give me a good start as we head into the autumn. Obviously after the last shootout, we've got your GP coming up, so that's something to look forward to.
So let's backtrack a little bit. So obviously you ran Roche before, and before that you were mainly associated, right? There was a bit of a crossover from when Associated stopped making their on-road cars.
So the backstory to that really was I was driving for a team Associated who have got a long and rich history in electric on road, but particularly 12 scale. They go back almost to the very beginning, and everything was great with that, although they weren't really kind of developing their on-road platforms at the same rate as some of the other manufacturers and people we were trying to compete with. So that was a little bit of a frustration. And in the end, they decided that they were just going to can their electric on-road program. I think because, you know, it was probably a decision that was made by an accountant somewhere. I would imagine they sell about 10 buggy kits for one touring car or 12 scale kit. When the numbers don't add up like that, you've got to look at your business model and make some difficult decisions. So when the Associated on-road program stopped, it was literally 3 months before the Worlds in 2020. So I was kind of left hanging a little bit, and luckily David Spashit at Zen Racing hooked me up and put me in contact with Max Marr at Roche, I spent a couple of years running the Roche P12 platform, which, to be honest, it was the sensible choice just before the 2020 Worlds. I needed a car that was proven, well developed. Obviously Ollie Payne and Dave had been running it for some time, so I needed something that was pretty well sorted that I could throw down at a big event and stand some chance of being competitive with. So that's what I did for a couple of years. But during that period, or certainly towards the end of 2021, the Automatics platform came on the scene, I was subject to a little bit of pressure. I think you can say, from James Stewart, who was a very, very early guy to get involved with that platform. He wanted me to drive the car at the end of 2021, but I wasn't really very comfortable with jumping ship just on a whim onto something that was very, very embryonic in terms of its development and kind of pedigree, I suppose you could say. So I continued to run Roche last winter. James went away, and he and a couple of other guys, Nigel Hale and Mark Payne, persevered with the car over the winter. And by the end of the Nationals last winter, they'd got it into a pretty good place. James did really well with it at the last National at Chesterfield. And I think his closing comment after his last race at the Chesterfield National to me was, "You need to try this car." So duly obliged, and it kind of went from there, really.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how it's come to be.
Yeah, it's certainly. I think there's a few things that certainly have caught my attention over the summer, having not done too much 12 scale. You kind of put in foam to carpet, which is good to see people practicing. Uh, I think a new scale or a new class is always interesting, or should I say, a new chassis is always interesting, isn't it? It's grabbed the attention. The fact that you were Roche and then you moved to automatics in itself gives, it gives credibility to the chassis. And I think the fact that James Stewart has been instrumental in putting a nice team together. Likes of yourself, got the guys that you've mentioned, got Finlay Williams as well, who's a really young up and comer, great driver, great dad as well, that supports Finlay everywhere he goes. I think so many people do really well with having a nice bunch of people around them. It's not for everyone, but I think certainly in this class, that arm around you to give you a bit of a helping hand, and with the cars being much easier as well. It certainly builds a nice community, doesn't it? Within and for a chassis that's not really well known and people don't know the intricacies. If you've got sort of a few hardcore racers that have been racing like you guys have, Mark, Nigel, James, and yourself, been racing for such a long time, it's good to be able to lean on those guys with a new chassis and not feel like you're going into the complete black hole with it, which arguably is what what you would have felt and would have held you back initially with the chassis, right?
Yeah, I think what you pick up on there with kind of racing and working with people is it's a big part of why I've got involved with this project, because we had it when I drove for Team Associated. There was a bunch of us, almost a very similar group to what we've got now with automatics. It's racing with your mates, isn't it?
Yeah,
we all go to 12 scale racing. We all pit together. We're friendly. We socialise with each other, both at the racing, but also away from racing. And yeah, a big part of it for me is wanting to run a car and be involved with something that my mates are doing as well, because that's, at the end of the day, it's a big reason why I go RC car racing. So it's going to be really nice, hopefully, to collaborate with some people that I know. We can all work together. There's no, it's a very open environment that we've got. No one's keeping secrets from one another. We all want to progress the car and develop it and get it running as well as we can. Maybe that will change if we find that we're head-to-head vying for wins, etc. But certainly over the summer so far, it's been really good, and we've made some good progress with it. And yeah, like you say, it's quite a mix of people we've got. So you mentioned James and Nigel and Finlay. Obviously, Finlay's a youngster. He's perhaps not as experienced as the rest of us, but there's no doubt in his talent as far as driving the car is concerned.
Absolutely, no doubt.
We're hoping that we can just nurture him a little bit on the technical and preparation side. He needs to work on his psychological approach a little bit. He's like any youngster. He's by his own admission, he's prone to letting his head drop a little bit if things don't start off very well. So that whole approach to racing and how to deal with racing at a high level is something that we're hoping we can help him with, and with any luck, you might see him in a few A finals this winter.
It was good because
Matt Varra as well, who of course is second in the world technically at 12 scale stock. So yeah. I'm sure that I'm going to have my work cut out trying to hang on to his coattails at some of the nationals this winter. So that'll be good to have someone running the same car as me. It'll be really helpful, certainly at the sharp end, because me and Matt have worked together with a number of cars in the past, and we're very good friends, but also fierce competitors. So we'll help each other, but we want to beat each other too. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, we had obviously the on-road podcast, as it was known then, the race series during the summer last year, and I was running an X-Ray, and so was Finn, and I put my car down. I said, "There you go, Finn, have a go with that," and he just drove around, didn't hit a barrier, and it was just relentless, and it was like, oh man,
Yeah.
there's so much scope for him, and I think it just goes to show, even though you're a really good driver, if your car's not set right, as you would know, you start tapping barriers. No, because not because of any fault of your own. It's because there's inadequacies somewhere in the setup, and I think that's where, when you grab someone under your wing, like, that's so young, impressionable, and is hungry to do well, I think you really, and his dad is got so much enthusiasm for Finn to do well. Unfortunately, there is no substitute for experience and knowledge on the fine art of all of these cars and the subtleties dealing with 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 mil. I mean, you can't have a body shell that's pissed. You can't have a tyre that's, untrued and not quite finished in the same way, and lipos and motors and all of that, various of the variable ingredients. I think it's absolutely essential if you're serious about it and you want to go. It's not essential to perform. You still have a great time, can't you? But I think if someone has got a real desire, and clearly Finley has, it's nice to have someone in the team, because that kind of spurs everyone else on as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the intricacies and the fine details. I was there once before myself. When I was in my teens, it was Nigel Hale and Mick Farrell, Andy Griffiths, who some people might not know or remember, but Andy was right up there as one of the world's best, perpetual national champion in the kind of early to mid 2000s. So yeah, Andy and Nigel and Mick taught me a great deal of what I know now, and the way I apply myself and approach my racing. That all came from what they gave to me 15 odd years ago, and also Dave Spaship's been there in the background through the whole time as well. There's some really useful nuggets and bits of experience that I've learned from him over the years as well. So it's almost come full circle for me now. I've had the privilege of experiencing that kind of setup with people helping me to progress, and now hopefully I can pass that on to the next crop and the next generation that are coming through, because if there's got to be people that come after us, because otherwise
sure.
We're not going to be around forever.
And while we're on it, obviously we've got a few people watching, which is nice to see. If you've got any questions, feel free to fire them over. While you're here, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'd always be really keen to get your thoughts and opinions on anything you want us to answer, or Mark to answer. As I say, very welcome. So going into the winter season, you've got a nice crop of drivers amongst you, and it's really, the landscape's very much changed, isn't it? I mean, on the RC event that I'm hosting, I did a bit of a chassis collective of what chassis was dominating. I think it would be naive to think that we didn't think that sort of Schumacher would be the chassis that would steal the show in terms of participation or usage. Well, of course, at the moment, I think Zen and yourselves with the Automatics are the leading chassis. I mean, obviously Mark Jewett, for those people that don't know, has come across to the Automatics as well. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Mark. There is a real good spread now of chassis being used, and that can only be good, rather than sort of the big group over in the corner, which has historically for the last 2 or 3 years with their Eclipse car, led by Andy Murray, has really grabbed hold of the mainstay of the 12 scale races, to now see the Automatics like the most out there chassis. And let's face it, it's not the cheapest chassis either, has really grabbed a lot of drivers' attention, because I remember seeing Glenn Atherton stick it down, run with it, and he was like, he went up final upon final as the race series went on, more than anyone. And I just kept on watching. It was just brilliant. So what do you think, if there's one nugget that the Automatics offers, just one, keep it one, offers someone looking to dip their toe in Automatics, what is it that the car gives them more than anything else, Mark?
I think on the face of it, a lot of people have said, "Oh, this car's too complicated. I can't get my head around it." Blah blah blah. I think it's just different, and certainly my experience so far has been that once you've figured it out and you've got it reasonably well sorted, there's not a lot to get wrong or change on it to mean that it messes it up. I've spent the summer racing at Tamworth, and I've tried bits and bobs, done this and that, but I've ended up going back to pretty much what I started off with, which is what James gave me as a setup.
Always the way.
It's always the way, isn't it? You try stuff, but I think it seems to be the kind of car that once you've got it in a window and you've figured it out, there's not a lot you can do to mess it up. And if people can get hold of a car that they take to a race meeting, they don't have to change too much on it. They can put it on the track and they're going to be confident in how it's going to behave, and that it's not going to bite them in the arse every time they go out to race. It will spur them on and give them more confidence to improve their own performance with their driving. So I think, in answer to your question, basically it's a solid platform once you've got it sorted, and there's not a lot to get wrong with it. So,
and of course you only have to look at really what led all of this change. Really was, you'd have to arguably say, the Schumacher, the single chassis, no shock in the middle. I mean, you've spent your whole 12 scale life with a shock in the middle. Fucking ball ache, right? I mean, it really is. I mean, you just have to take your time, do it right. Deliberate. That's easier said than done sometimes, because if you don't know what you're looking for, you think, oh well, that's all right. That'll be all right. Getting it the same. Of course, the automatics, the Schumacher, now the Zen LMP car, no centre shock to fiddle about with. How much are you enjoying that?
Yeah, so it's different, certainly, and I think it's fair to say what you have about Schumacher. They were almost the first to bring something new to the table in terms of how the cars are designed when they came out with their car originally, because at that time every 12 scale car was the same. It just had different colour bits on it, really. You picked up a Roche, an X-Ray, a Destiny, an Associated. They all had a pivot, a ball and socket pivot on the back with side links, a dynamic strut front end, a centre shock. So it's really just which brand you preferred, which car you thought,
whether it was blue, orange, or red.
And I think a big part of why Schumacher enjoyed a period of success with their car, and a lot of people ran it, was, yes, it was a different design, but again, like I think this automatics car is, once people got their heads around it, it's actually a lot simpler than the more traditional designs. You haven't got a centre shock to worry about. You haven't got reactive caster and dynamic strut front suspension to try and figure out. The front end on the Schumacher and the automatics, and also the Zen, if you run the kind of the fixed kind of old school style front end on it, it's a fixed caster angle, fixed camber angle, no moving top arm. It's just a block sliding up and down a pin with a spring on it. So when you limit the variability and the options you've got to change stuff and fiddle, it does mean that more often than not it's going to be easier to make it work. So I think that's what you're seeing now. The Schumacher has been popular for a number of years, but now the automatics and the Zen are gaining some popularity, and it's, I think, going to be those three cars and that style of design that is the kind of, I say the next, but it's the current era of how 12 scale cars are. And it wouldn't surprise me in years to come to see some of the other manufacturers follow suit, because they might find that they have to. They might decide to copy or duplicate designs that are already out there, or at least try to, and test them and think, wow, this is good. Okay, we'll try that then. So it's almost a changing of the guard, similar to what we had when we went from sub-C batteries to lipos, and suddenly we went from having a T-shaped piece of fiberglass holding the back of a car on with like a saddle pack battery. Suddenly we had just a single battery pack, and it's like, okay, well, where are we going to put this? Well, we'll put it in the middle of the car then. Oh, where's the T-bar going to go? Well, we can't have a T-bar, we'll have to come up with a new design. So that transition from T-bar cars to link cars, 15 years ago or however long ago it was, I think we're going to see that again with a transition from link cars to one-piece chassis and simpler front ends. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, exciting.
But I think it started, and Schumacher have had that option for a few years now, but now there's other players in the game, and it's just giving people a few more options and choices to make. So
which is great, right? I mean, it's great, and I just want to touch on a few comments coming in. James Eaves, welcome along, James. Nice to have you along. Not sure what Tony means by it's Madonna. Mark, are you going to be aiming for a third? I'm not even going to ask you that question, and I'm not even going to entertain that anymore, because that is boring. You are better than third, and I think with the results that you've been putting in at Tamworth, everyone in front of you should be looking out. So good on you for putting in the time and effort with a new chassis, and I wish you well, Mark. So Andy HBO86. Speaking of Andy Murray, look out for him running at the two-wheel drive Nats this weekend at Bedworth. I'm not sure what he's referring to, because can't be referring to buggies, because buggy Nats was last weekend that I was at.
No, it'll be touring cars, but two-wheel drive touring cars, so they run front-wheel drive.
Oh, the broken ones.
Touring car, and F1, which is the biggest irony in RC, in that Formula One's supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsport, and they're possibly the worst handling RC cars I've ever seen. But yeah, I think that's going on at Bedworth this weekend, front drive touring car and F1 Nationals.
Now, I've got to tell you, Mark, that all of my time doing all of this social media stuff, right, which I do enjoy, you may have noticed, that podcast with you, me and Mark Payne, where Mark came up about cutting the belt out and making it front wheel drive on a touring car. If you've not listened to it, just go and check it out, because I think it's podcast gold. I mean, Aidan Burke and Martin Owen on the Extra Lab podcast, they got nothing on that podcast, Mark. Honestly, it's absolute podcast gold, wasn't it? I mean, I couldn't stop laughing.
I do remember that podcast. Mr. Payne is very matter of fact.
Yeah, love it.
Sometimes there's not much in the way of a filter, so something pops into the head and it just comes straight out.
Love it, man after my own heart. So James Eaves again, who's a Schumacher guy. A12 Chassis is a quality looking piece of kit. It really is, isn't it? I mean, it's when I built mine and I ran it, I loved it. I mean, it was incredible. I just didn't have the heart to want to go down an avenue that I knew nothing about. And now that you're in a place good with it, I might have a get off you.
We've got I can't take much credit for what's happened. I think
take the credit, Mark.
We've got James Stewart on.
Forget James, he's not here.
As a former world champion, not Dave Spashitz, another one, once said, "My God, James, you know some shit about RC cars. If only you could drive."
And Tony Wade makes a really good point as well. He says, I think it was on the back of cars that are really easily set up and in a good place. He says, more time to talk in the pits. Now, there is a lot in that. I mean, I'd have to say that I used the chassis, and all I did was I had my head down on the table the whole time. And anyone using a Schumacher chassis, that was their pose. They're just sort of sitting back in the chair and just sort of looking up at the ceiling. And I mean, it's just, I think we can all do with enjoying the pit area a bit more. And if you think about what a car does to you emotionally. You stick it out on the track, it's a load of old poop. You come back, you try and change it again, it's a load of old poop. You do that for a day, breathe in a few fumes from additive as well, stick a little bit on your toast and your lunch, you've absorbed, you're not going to be in a good place. So you never know. This could be like a whole new mood in the pits. Everyone's got a car that they can smash up against the wall, doesn't tweak, and it goes round. And you enjoy the day not having to repair stuff and build stuff and get it right. You know, I mean, I think that's a really relevant point.
Yeah, I mean, last winter at the Nationals, cast your mind back, Stu. Last winter at the Nationals, how many times on average per day at the Nationals would you say did you have to dismantle and rebuild a pod?
8 times.
Or send a pivot on your
8 times.
Yeah, 8 times.
Well, I did it before I started, and then I did it before I chucked it in the bin.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it was the same for me with the car or cars I've run before. You know, almost every run you do, if you tap a board, it's like, oh, that doesn't feel quite right. You get back to your pits, and the first thing you do is brush your car off and then dismantle the back end of it. And then, like you say, you've got your head in the bench for another half an hour trying to straighten something out. Whereas, wouldn't it be nice if you had a car that, you know, I mean, my car, my automatics have been flat out head on into the end of the straight at Tamworth a few weeks ago. So, you know, fair enough, I went in with the front end. But, you know, the reason that happened is because an amateurish mistake. My transmitter battery went flat halfway through the run, and I just happened to be halfway along the straight.
There is nothing wrong with that, Mark. Done it 3 times, all at Newbury. Nothing wrong with that.
So, I was driving around on a really nice, good run, and there was this beeping noise. I was like, I haven't set a timer up on my transmitter. Someone else must be doing something. Then all of a sudden got onto the straight, and I was like, oh dear, I'm not in control of this anymore. And it went flat out into the end of the straight.
Oh no, it's broken.
Yeah. I've got it back to the pits. Not a single thing was bent or broken on it.
Brilliant.
I just put some new tyres on it, charged the battery, went out for my next run.
And I think, I mean, you talk about pods. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but even if I didn't tap a barrier, which would be rare, but even if I didn't tap a barrier, I would still almost feel obliged to just have a look at it.
Yeah. Whereas subconsciously you're thinking, oh, I better just check it because I'll never forgive myself if I don't.
Because if you put it down, you've just waited an hour for your run, you put it down, and you've been sitting there with your arms crossed, and you put it down and it's tweaked. It's like, what a muppet. Yeah. Because I don't care what you say, you miss a run, you're behind the curveball for the whole day, aren't you? You miss a run, you're behind it because everyone's had 8 minutes of getting better at the track than you have. And then you miss another run.
And what's it doing to your head if every time you put a car on the track, you're second guessing what it might do?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if you could just put it down and go, oh, I know exactly what this car's going to do because it's the same as it was in the last run I did.
Yeah.
All I've done is put some more tyres on it and charge the battery.
Exactly.
And like you say, it means that you'll be sat in the pits with your mates, chewing the fat, having some banter and enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more frustrating than struggling with a car. You know, it's we've all been there. You know, some of us more than others, but yeah, it's the endless frustration of RC is how do I fix this? How do I make it how I want it?
100%.
So yeah, I think for us with the automatics, you know, we're hoping that we can get people that are using the car to a point where they're confident in it, they know what they're doing, and they've got a package that they like and they do well with because, you know, they're not dismantling it every 5 minutes trying to find problems. Which, you know, as you say, it's what Schumacher have enjoyed for a number of years. So hopefully it won't just be them enjoying themselves. We can all have a slice of that pie.
So we've got Precision Golf Limited, which is a venue that I work at. We've got this laser etching machine that is just like amazing. It looks like something out of Star Wars. And Well, the chaps has just said we've got this. Like, anyone that wants anything laser etched with like names or anything on anything, we do it on. We can etch onto like carbon graphite shafts and stuff in the golf clubs. Anything that anybody wants laser etched, drop me a line. I can sort that out for you. James Eaves.
You'll be doing Huddy out of some business doing that, won't you?
Who's that? Huddy? I know. Don't. Well, you know, if you've got it.
Always used to be a thing. I don't know whether people still have it, but people used to get their tools, their nut spinners and Allen drivers engraved or etched with their name on the handle. So you'll have a Huddy 2mm driver or something.
Yeah.
And it'll be anodized black. People used to get their name engraved on it. I'm sure it's so that no one could nick their tools. It's like going to school with a name tag in your
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So what else we got? James Eaves. James Eaves has just informed me that he's ditched the Schumacher and he's driving an automatics. Did you know this?
I did know that.
Oh, fucking keep that to yourself. I mean, I didn't know that.
I think I've spoken to James once or twice on Facebook Messenger, and I know he's probably spoken to James Stewart a bit about the car as well. So yeah, another one.
Well, let me tell you, James Eaves has been absolutely flying. So let me tell you, if he goes backwards, Mark, it's all on you, buddy. It's all on you.
Yeah, we'll see.
Now, I'm just gonna try and give us an opportunity to just hold up the car for those guys and girls that haven't seen it. Now, I hope this doesn't all backfire on me, because I'm gonna pan in by the magic of television and cut it on you. Look at that. Can you see how that works, Mark? See how good that was? Hey,
perfect.
You've got the stage. Let's have a little look at the car. Pull her up to the camera.
Luckily for the viewers, I've done some prep work this week, so it's all ready for Tamworth this Saturday. So here it is, as elegant as you could ever wish a 1/12 scale car to be. It's one thing I will say is when you open the kit up, there's not an awful lot in the box. So you mentioned earlier that it's quite an expensive car. Yeah, that's not the only disappointing thing. It is quite expensive, but you're paying for a high quality piece of kit. But yeah, you open the kit up and you're like, oh my God, is that all I get for my money? But when you look at the finished item, there's really not a lot to it. What is in there is high quality, precision. It's also very light. So if you build the car as it comes out of the box with steel screws, all the standard bits on it, put your hobby wing speedo and an X Factor motor in it and a lipo, get it race ready, you'll find that you need to add about 30 grams of weight to get it up to the minimum. So it's a very light car, and it's very low, the weight in the car. So if you look at it side on, about the highest point in the car is the top of the motor. Everything else is kind of at battery speedo level. So you haven't got a centre shock up in the sky, and lots of suspension and wishbones getting in the way of the front of the body shell. So it's a very tidy, nice, elegant piece of kit. And when you get into looking at the design in detail, it's immediately obvious that the guy that's designed it has thought long and hard about it. And it's a very, very different approach to design of a 12 scale car, but it's been very well done indeed, I think. So.
And you're using an AMR body shell, Mark?
Yeah, so I'm actually sponsored by Protoform, so
just 1 second, Mark. Yeah. Just 1 second, Mark. Just 1 second. Let me just pick that name up. You just dropped it.
So yeah, I use an AMR, partly because I'm sponsored to use Protoform body shells, but also because the AMRs are a neutral body shell in its handling. So there's other body shells out there that people use that will give the car different handling characteristics, but I've found on most cars I've run, particularly this automatics, that the AMR is a very good starting point, and you can tune the car from there if you want it to do something a bit different. There's options out there available, but most of the setups that you'll see me post for the car will specify an AMR body, because it's kind of the go-to de facto choice, really, and has been for a long time. I think the AMR first came on the scene in around 2007, 2008, something like that. So it's been around well over a decade.
It's been a stalwart of people like Alex Hagberg in modified and stock racing, right? I mean, it's been around forever. So we've got Tony Quickfingers. He's obviously been up watching you racing. Your car's been flying around at Tamworth. James Stewart is on. Are you sure I'm not here? Well, clearly he is listening in. Nice to have you along, James. Any other questions? Keep them coming in. We'll be keen to answer them. So let's move on. Really good insights on the Automatics car, Mark. Really appreciate that. And any more questions that people have along the way while we're still on, feel free to fire them in, and Mark, I'm sure, will oblige in answering those. So can we talk a little bit about my event at MB Models? You and your Automatics team are going to be one of the 3 teams that will be hosting a workshop. What can people expect from your workshop?
So I think you've got us penned in for a couple of workshop sessions,
yep.
haven't you? Each of us,
two half-an-hour sessions.
Hagberg and Dave Spashit. So from my side, I think we're going to use one of the sessions to kind of give a run through of the car, the Automatics car, how it works, how we're setting it up, things to watch out for when you build it, the kind of things you might look to change if you're trying to tune it for specific tracks or conditions. So we'll just try and give people an overview of what we're doing, and hopefully enable people to get the best they can out of the car. Because as I've mentioned already several times, it's very different to most else of what's out there. So you just need to kind of reset your brain a little bit in terms of how you think and what you're changing. But none of it's rocket science. You just need to give it a chance, I think. So that'll be the first session, and then I think the second session we're going to focus a bit more, and I think you're quite keen for us to do a little bit on kind of driving technique. So I think I'll hopefully, depending on what Dave and Alex suggest that they might cover, I think I'd quite like to do a little bit of discussion and talk around how to approach your races in your head. So racecraft, being aware of not just driving your car, but what the other cars on the track are doing, and how to adjust your mindset depending on who you're racing against, where you are in the race, knowing what's going on elsewhere on the track, because there's a lot more to racing these cars than just driving them around the track, and that kind of approach and technique can take years and years and years. It's a bit like golf. You can play golf for 20 years and still not master it, and RC racing's the same, but it can help if you've got a little bit of a coach to bring you along and help you a little bit with the way you think about it and the way you approach it. So I think I'll probably touch on some of those things and kind of give some advice that I've been giving myself over the years, and also things that I've figured out for myself, to hopefully help people get more out of their racing.
Yeah, and I would like, the guys are going to be mic'd up. I'm going to be mic'd up, so I'll be able to answer your questions coming through on the stream. It's obviously going to be live streamed. I've spoken to Michael Ball. He's when he was having the track refurbished, he's upgraded his internet, so internet speed is fantastic. So we're going to be able to get, I've got a good few cameras now. They're going to be streamed around the track. Going to be using OBS Studio, and just like I'm doing here, I'll be able to flick through all the different camera locations, be able to get the audio it'd be nice if one of you guys, two of you, whatever, sort of on track, and we can sort of get a bit of a overview of positioning of the car and how you enter a bend and all that, just simple stuff that sort of you do naturally. As you know, when you get better at the hobby, you ease off the gas and drive it a bit more with the throttle stick than the steering. You know, all of these little nuances that people don't perhaps perceive or understand, because you never get a look at what someone's doing with their sticks, do you? I mean, it'd be great to have a stick cam, you know, have it on your chest. You're going around because you're a stick guy and Alex is a wheel guy. You know, it'd be good to see how you guys are using your sticks and your wheel, and when you're putting having input on the controller. All that sort of stuff would be so insightful, and even if people pick up one nugget per half an hour, that's 6 bits of information that they wouldn't have had previously. And if they're not there, no problem, they can catch it here and it'll be on social media for the rest of the time. And equally, the guys there that are making use of the full day practice, which I think we were talking about it on Messenger this week. How much importance would you lay on being able to have a track for 13 hours of practice, which is on the Friday? How useful do you think that's going to be for you going into the Winter Series?
Oh, the fact we've got more than a day of practice on the Friday at your GP is, you know, it's one of the main reasons I've booked in to race at that event, because, you know, we do an awful lot of racing. You know, particularly when you get to competing at national level, you go to a national, you know, you kind of put a bit of pressure on yourself. You're desperate to do things right and have a good day, and you know you very rarely get time to just sit at your pit table, try some stuff out, go out on the track with no pressure, no stress, and actually hone your skills and develop your setup and really get your head into it. So yeah, that 12, 13 hours that we're going to have on that Friday, I would say to anyone who is looking to race 12 scale this winter and wants to do well and wants to really get the most out of their time at national championship races, if you can get to the race car GP and spend a day just practicing, learning, because you know it'll be great for me and Dave and Alex and all the other experienced guys that are there. It'll be great for us to be able to sit there and have some proper time to help people, because at a national it's quite time constrained. We've got our own cars and stuff to think about, so at the GP on the practice day, if someone comes to me with their car saying, "Oh, Mark, you know, my car's doing X, Y, and Z. I can't get it to go straight. It's doing this, it's doing that," I can actually sit with them and work through things with them and show them how to fix the problems or solve the issues. Whereas at a national meeting, they won't get anything like that kind of service because we just don't have the time to give to everyone in that way. So that Friday is going to be invaluable for people that are there to gain experience and practice, but also for those of us that want to help others. So yeah, it's that practice day is reason in itself to come and race.
And I think people, you know, who haven't been to a Euros or haven't been to a Masters of Foam, a Worlds, whatever, sort of an NYGP, a step up in event, you know, it's 3 days. It feels different, doesn't it? To have a full day of just testing and playing and fiddling and driving and chewing the cud, and the time to sit back and think and prep, and especially now with these cars that are so much more robust, time to actually just keep going round. I mean, which helps, you know, especially with the advice of drivers. I think it will potentially inspire people to go, oh, okay, I don't have to travel abroad. It's in the UK. I've got a great opportunity to go race and do it for 3 days. It's their opportunity to see if 3 days of racing is for them, because it might not be for everyone, a full day's practice, but at least give yourself an opportunity to not like it or try it, rather than not ever having that opportunity, because there is no 3-day 12 scale event in the UK, is there? I mean, the Worlds was, but that's every couple of years. And the Euros, well, fingers crossed it comes. But invariably, on a yearly basis, there is not a 3-day 12 scale event.
Yeah, and also it's a very big step to go from running once a week at a pokey little club with a few other guys to step up to going and racing at a national level event. It's a big step, particularly if it's not something you've done before in other classes or in any other activity. So there is, if you decide you're going to go and do a national, you rock up and you get one practice run to learn the track, learn what your car's going to do, and then you've got all of that experience to try and get in a short period of time about, okay, the grip I've got here is far in excess of anything I've experienced at club level before. My car's just behaving completely differently to how I'm used to. No one wants that stress and aggro at a national when you actually want to just get your head into some racing and enjoy yourself. So coming to your GP, it's at the start of the year. If there's people out there that are considering maybe having a go at doing a national or two this winter, it's a great way to come in a relaxed atmosphere with no pressure, no stress, just have some experience and have a go at driving on what is essentially a national grade track in high grip with some other people that are experienced at racing at a higher level than what you had before. So you can get all of that kind of early doors learning out of the way before you even go to a national. So I see it as being a very good opportunity to put a stepping stone in between just racing at club and going to a national.
Yeah.
And then also, as you say, it's a 3-day event. So the way you approach a 3-day event in terms of your car prep and your head game and everything else is very different to a 1-day national where you've only got 3 or 4 runs to try and get something on the table. You go to a Euros, you've got over a day's worth of practice before you've even got a set of competitive time. So I've seen it countless times where people have raced at nationals for a couple of years. They decide they're going to have a go at Euros, and they do their best time of the weekend in practice because they're used to having to get into it and be fast straight away. Whereas at a big event, at a 3-day event, you've got more runs, more time to ease into it and build up your performance and build confidence in the car and fine tune your setup. So yeah, your 3-day events or multi-day events are certainly few and far between in the UK. So it's a good opportunity to experience one of those, but without it costing the earth to go and do.
Yeah, and you can win some cash.
To race at the Euros isn't the cheapest thing in the world, and absolutely, as you say, if you win your final, you get some cash. Or top 3 in it, I think.
Yeah, top three. Yeah. So, 40 pounds, £15 and £5. Winner.
Yeah, which obviously, if you win your final, it covers your race entry. But actually, in my opinion, if I win my final, all that means is that I'm going to be first at the bar to get the drinks in.
Yeah.
The next time I meet up with my mates, so gives you a bit of kudos and it's almost a forfeit, isn't it? Winning your final and getting a cash prize.
Yeah, exactly.
By the first round now.
Exactly.
But it would be nice, I think, as well. It gives an added dimension to the racing in that, there's guys that I pit with and are friends with that, let's be honest, they're probably not going to be at the sharp end of the A final, but they might make the B or the C final, which ordinarily, at a national, I might watch some of the B and C final while I'm getting my car ready. But I won't take that much of a vested interest in it. Whereas if one of my mates is up on that driver's stand and he's racing with a guy for 40 or 50 quid, I'll be more inclined to watch it and cheer him on.
Yeah.
That kind of camaraderie and and encouragement. I think it needs a bit of that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. And there's also the added dimension of the reverse grid second final, isn't there?
There is, and there was some incredible racing in the reverse grid. I remember vividly. I'm not sure if I've told you, but Stuart Barber, who's now moved across to buggy, it was his first time getting in an A final. He was 10th in the A, and he was pole, obviously, in the second run. And bless him, he turned left at the end of the straight instead of right. He was that nervous. And it was, but where do you get that kind of intensity? It was just because the reverse grid just worked that way for him, and also Jody Sherratt. I mean, Jody and Finn Williams. I mean, they both had Ollie Payne chasing them down for Ollie to take the win in the second run, and so Finley held off, I think, Ollie for his run. Where else would you get the opportunity to have, Finn being chased down by Ollie, or anybody being chased down by Alex Hagberg or you, or I think it just offers up. And reason ultimately why I just wanted to do it is because if someone wins the first final and the second final, they might sit out on the third final, and the chances are they might not win the second final, and there'll be something for them to race for the third final. And so I just thought it would be just a bit of a hoot. And because of the mindset going into the first bend, everybody knows that the car in front of them is slower than them, so there's no need to take them out in the first bend. just take your time. So so it's going to be good. So going forwards in the short term, we've got shootout coming up. You've got Tamworth Saturday. You're there at Tamworth, aren't you?
Yeah, I've seen you booked in as well. I've just been on the Tamworth website. You're on the entry list.
Have I? Oh, yeah. Don't know.
Yeah,
maybe. And then,
if anyone out there wants to come and get the better of Stu, book in for Tamworth.
Anyone can get the better of me, Mark. They only have to turn up.
Yeah.
And
the
then,
important thing to remember, Stu, is that as it's only a club meeting, no one will complain at you if you storm off the rostrum.
There you go. Well, let's not go there with storming off the rostrum. Let's not go there. You've thrown me completely off by that. No, joking. So and Chesterfield. So we've got Chesterfield, their shootout finale Saturday and Sunday. I got to tell you, I love Chesterfield with all my heart. I think they've done such a great job. And Tamworth, I mean, I've been on their new carpet. Grip's good at Tamworth in the new carpet?
Yeah. Their new rug is the kind of dark grey, black Lindau stuff, which it's exactly the same rug as they've got down at Eastbourne that we used for the Worlds in 2020. So
yeah, great.
Yeah, grip's good, comes up fast. I think they've got quite an interesting and good format at Tamworth, their club meetings now. So they start just after lunchtime. So the doors open about 2:00. They get racing going by about 3. You get a practice run, 4 qualifiers and a final.
Yep.
And it's all done and dusted by 9:30 in the evening. So
perfect.
If you're like me, Tamworth is over 90 miles drive for me. I haven't got to rush around getting up at the crack of dawn to go racing.
Yep.
I can, have some lunch at home, set off, get there for about 2:30, have an afternoon, evening of racing, finish at 9:30, and then I can be back home and in bed, well before midnight.
Yeah.
Which just makes it easier.
Big difference.
To do.
Yeah.
And you get 6-8 minute runs, so it makes the drive worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I think what I've found, even if there's only a couple of 2 or 3 heats of LMP going round, by the kind of second, third qualifier, the grip's up far enough for it to be representative, and it stays pretty consistent for the rest of the evening. So you're not driving around on ice for 5 runs just to get one decent one at the end. It's I think the only sketchy run grip wise is the very first practice one. The rest of it is pretty good. So
brilliant. And obviously you're at the shootouts as well, Mark. The final shootout.
So we've got the GP coming up. So 2-day meeting, isn't it? So I think I'm in with a shout of winning that series overall, because
Nice.
I missed the first round, but I won the second and third rounds. So I think if I get a solid result, I could get my name on that trophy for the first time in about 10 years. I think.
Brilliant.
I think I won it about 10 years ago. So
Nice.
that'd be a nice way to start the winter season.
And incidentally,
Sorry, go on. The shootouts really, as I've said to people a lot, similarly to your GP, they're a great stepping stone from club level racing. If you're thinking about doing a national, it's on a national grade track. There's some quick drivers there. You can rock up, get a bit of experience, learn a few things, but it's not as high stress and pressure as a national.
Yeah,
it's a lot more laid back. So they're definitely worth doing to keep your eye on over the summer.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, all being well, Tamworth and Chesterfield I will stream on the channel. So hopefully, if all goes well, we'll have those up and running through the channel. So that'll be nice for people to be able to see. And I'm going to start taking my laptop along and doing it. And hopefully we can get the old live timing up on the stream as well, which I think adds a little bit to it as well. So, I mean, we're drawing to the hour. We've gone over the hour. I'd like to keep these to the 60 minutes. Don't want people getting bored with us. But anything that you want to add going forwards?
I think, obviously the national dates and venues have been announced now for LMP12. So we're not starting until January. So it's going to be January, February, March. So, it would be easy to think, for people to think, there's nothing going on before Christmas, but that's not the case at all. As we've said, we've got Tamworth running, every couple of weeks, good club meetings. Chesterfield will have club meetings on, but we've also got Shootout, your GP. Then there's an EFRA GP coming up middle of November at Eastbourne, so that'll be a good one. We might find there's a few overseas guys come over to that if it's announced that we do in fact get the Euros down in Eastbourne, which will probably be next springtime.
We've got 5 Europeans coming to my GP, which I'm really pleased about. Yeah, brilliant.
There's plenty of racing to be had this side of the new year and the national starting, and if you're going to do the nationals and you want to do well, then it's going to be important to get involved with some of that to get up to speed. And I'd also say, if it is an if at the moment, but if we do get the Euros, if Brits want to race at that European Championships, you're going to have to be a regular on the scene. So you're going to have to have done the nationals, and it'll probably help your cause if you can get along to the EFRA GP, your meeting, this last Shootout meeting, that kind of thing. If you show willing and you're keen, then you're more likely to be on the radar when it comes to a place allocation for the Euros. So, get along to them. If you're running an AMX and you need some help with it, come and say hello and speak to us, and we'll be happy to help you.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Mark, you've been great. Thanks some of your sponsors. Give them a shout out, because they'll all appreciate it.
Oh God, I've got to think who they are now.
Keep it short though, Mark. Don't drop any more names, for goodness sake.
So I guess Automatics is obviously the main one, but then there's Protoform, Zen Racing. Dave does an awful lot to help me at Zen Racing. Hopefully I do a bit to help him as well. Payne, who spray my bodies, Silly Goat Graphics, CML Distribution, and MXLR, which is Max Mackler's little side business he's got going, doing bumpers and little accessories for automatics cars. So thanks to all those for your continued support, and hopefully I can get you some silverware and something to shout about over the winter.
I've no doubt you will, Mark. Mark, you're always a true gent, and you certainly help and go out of your way to help people at Trackside and on Messenger and on Facebook. Really appreciate your time for joining me this evening. I'd love to have you back on maybe the week before the GP, hear what changes you've made and the progress going into the weekend, and give us a little bit of an insight. And perhaps we'll get Alex and Dave on as well, get the three of you guys on the week before the GP, just to build a little bit more momentum going forwards, and just to keep pushing 12 scale going into the winter months. As I say, big thank you, Mark, for your time this evening, and I look forward to seeing you at potentially Tamworth.
Yeah, I think you say talking about pushing 12 scale. The best way to kind of build 12 scale and grow it is just to talk about it, share stuff online, be active on social media, tell people where you're going, what you're doing. It's almost better to tell people where you're going rather than do a report to say, oh yeah, by the way, last weekend I did this. That's great, but actually, what are you doing next weekend? Tell people, and then they can get involved if they're interested. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck. I'll see you at Tamworth. Look after yourself, Mark.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
So that was Mark. It was really great to have him on the show this evening, and we thank him for all of his time and efforts. I think the 12 scale scene has a lot to offer in the build up to the Nationals next year. If you've liked the video, click the like button while you're here. It's always really appreciated. Share with your friends and subscribe. Wish you all a good evening with what's left of it, and check out the YouTube channel for all the content I've created over the last few months and almost years now, and I look forward to seeing you all trackside soon.